Hello, everybody, and I'm Eagle McMahon, and sitting next to me is Will Schusterick, bringing you some bird shoes commentary. Today, we're going to be commentating on the 2018 Pärnu Open, an Innova Baltic Tour event. Hey, Will, how you doing?
Hey, Eagle, what's going on, man? McMahon, sorry.
McMahon, awesome. So on the card today, we have you at -17, two Finns, Mikael Häme at -14, Leo Piironen, -11, Ronald, I didn't see his last name, I forget his score, and myself at, I forget the score, that graphic wasn't long enough.
10 under.
Oh, it's 10 under, okay.
Yes.
So looking at hole 1 here, it's 141 meters, and as a starting hole, it's actually really difficult because you have out of bounds on both sides.
Yeah, I think this is one of the few holes out here that has just a lot of out of bounds. We saw a lot of people, especially with a little bit of wind, go out of bounds a couple times, and so it was kind of interesting coming up because I went for this hole 3 times. It kind of all depended on the wind for myself to go for it, but out of bounds both left and right side.
Yeah, this hole, if you're feeling confident with your ability to attack the hole, you could be getting a stroke on the entire field. But there's really no fault in laying up early and just trying to get your par just to get your round going. That shot was great. What'd you throw there, Will?
Yeah, that was a 400G D1. I think we're going to watch Mikael here go with a little bit of a layup shot. You can see the flags moving a little bit left to right. This is one of the few holes where the out of bounds really came into play a lot. As you can see, the disc is carrying out right there. That was a pretty common play for a lot of people trying to go with the overstable disc, but the left to right wind kind of pushing it over. There wasn't a lot of room on the left side because the fence. I think a lot of people just didn't want to hit the fence trying to come back in.
Absolutely, yeah, trying to get a little bit more height underneath your disc, and what you're saying with that wind can really push it pretty hard right if you're throwing a forehand.
Yeah, Leo got a little bit unlucky right here as he goes right underneath. He almost didn't even hit in front of the fence. He just flew straight underneath it. But as you can see, there's almost like 6 inches below that. So even if you tried to go for a roller or some type of shot to go into the fence, it would most likely just go underneath it.
All right, here is Ronald Rotenberg from Estonia. So all the fans were super pumped to have one of their own on the lead card for this event. Yeah,
Ronald's a mainly sidearm player, so you're going to see him throw forehand almost, I think, 90% of the time. He throws a couple backhands, but 90% of the time he does throw sidearm.
Eagle McMahon.
McMahon. Nice. I always love hearing the European pronunciations.
What are you throwing here?
I have an S-line PD2, just a little forehand chip shot. All I'm trying to do is get in the middle of the fairway and set myself up with an uphill upshot.
And you did that about every round.
Yeah, I never really felt confident running the green, especially to start out.
Mikael throwing his upshot right there, a little bit short. There is a little bit of a drop off behind the basket that goes towards out of bounds, but it's not bad. Giving a little bit of a run, but landing up on top. And then there's his the Ronald with the sidearm going up there.
Leo still had a little bit of a room to attack there, but it looks like he's just going to be sliding it up and tapping in his 4.
Yeah, it looks like Mikael here is a little bit, I think he's like 25 feet or so, and there's almost no wind at this point. It was really gusty throughout the week. He made a lot of really good putts that were about that distance. You can see the wind picking up just a little bit. It was, once again, it was definitely gusty throughout the round. Missed a little short one there. I actually missed that same putt the round before too. The round before was a little bit longer, but
Leo tapping in with his D-line P2.
Ronald taking a pretty easy 3.
Do you remember, is Ronald sponsored by anyone?
I don't think that he is. I could be wrong. I don't remember him throwing one specific type of disc.
Oh,
he does have a Trilogy shirt on.
Oh yeah, Team Trilogy. Okay, so he's probably throwing Trilogy.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
That would probably make sense with the Trilogy shirt. Hole 2, 100 meters, about 300 feet uphill. Behind this basket, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see it or not, but there's a really steep drop-off, 328 feet to be specific. You're going to see a lot of players either throw a sidearm on this hole or some type of mid-range, and they want to land about 30 feet or 20 feet short of the basket, because as soon as you go about 10 feet long, you are very far down the hill.
Absolutely. Like, it's a hole where if you throw it hard, you're going to be long, but if you throw it soft, you're going to be way too short. So it's kind of all about finding that happy medium.
Yeah, and it's the distance where you want to throw. I want to throw a putter or like a easy mid-range, but if I throw the mid-range too hard or if it gets too much of a flex on it, it's going down the hill for sure.
Ronald hugging the left side of the fairway a little bit too much. He catches a sign of sorts.
Yeah, and Eagle, are you going sidearm here? What are you throwing?
This is a Luster C-Line FD3, a little bit less stable than your average FD3. I'm trying to throw it on a slight hyzer and get a little bit of flip on it. This turned out to be just inside the circle.
Yeah, and that's the pretty standard play for the sidearm. You're not going to see a lot of flex shots with the sidearm coming out because the woods do come in pretty quick to the left-hand side, and if you get stuck in those trees, it's a pretty quick bogey.
Yeah, with the backhand, it seems like the gap's a lot bigger than it is.
Yeah, and you can see Mikael right there going down the hill. I think he threw a mid-range, but he just barely goes over the edge, and he went pretty far down.
Leo will just be a little bit outside the circle on his first shot.
And Ronald just laying it up pretty easy right there.
Yeah, he really can't do much more from right there.
Yeah, and that's where that mid-range shot landed that he threw, just because it crested the hill by like 2 feet. But he had a fairly easy straightforward putt. There wasn't many trees in front of him in the basket.
Yeah.
This is a really tough putt to run at because, once again, 10 feet behind that basket and a lot of gusting winds, it's really easy to slide down or roll, as you can see Leo right there.
That's about as bad of a break as he could have got from where he was.
Yeah, lips out of the cage and then goes, I think he goes outside the circle on this.
Yeah, super unlucky because I could tell he was just trying to kind of float one in there, give it a little bit of a run, but hitting the cage like that and having a hill to your right side, it's not the best recipe.
Yeah, this is the spot you want to be if you want to try to make your putt, because you're not putting towards the hill by any means. Making a really good putt from about 28, 30 feet. I had maybe just a few feet shorter.
Nice center.
Yeah, and these guys are just cleaning up just a little bit, taking the par. Ronald taking fairly easy par.
I gotta say, I was a little intimidated by Ronald coming out of the gates, going all red, Tiger Woods, and playing with Estonia. Like, we're on his home turf, so I knew he was bringing some
it's
heat.
Like an upgrade to your game if you play in your home country.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right, Eagle and I take the twos, and Leo takes the lone bogey.
All right, hole 3, par 4, 159 meters. This hole, off the tee, you're really only thinking about throwing, let's say, if you're a right-handed player, a backhand hyzer, getting over the hill, and then kind of finishing somewhere and perhaps throwing a mid-range upshot or a forehand.
Yeah, this is one of the easier par 4s because once you get over the hill, you see the basket. You're less than 250 feet, and if you get over the hill with any amount of speed, you're typically at the bottom and fairly easy upshot. So you really just need to get through 1 or 2 trees.
Go past it. Don't hit that. Dang it.
And I went 400 GD2 right here. I just was a little too early right on the edge right there. That's kind of not really good mistake you want to make.
This drive felt really good on my hand. I threw a S-line PD. It looks like it just hit that tree right there, kind of causing it not to get full potential, but I'll still have a look at the basket.
Yeah, even from there, you're going to be able to see the basket. This is one of the rare backhands we see from Ronald throughout the round. But even from where he's at over there, even though it looks like it's way off the fairway, he has a here he's going to be able to see the basket, I think.
This is piped right here.
Yeah, that's a good shot right there. You can see the disc kind of fades back to the left. That's kind of where the fairway is. I saw a lot of people get birdies too from on top of the hill, kind of dead straight. Leo throws this disc a lot. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but he throws this disc for a lot of shots. And kind of where he lands too, even though he didn't fade left, he has a pretty straightforward. I'm looking to kind of just pierce through this little tiny gap right over this tee pad. It's kind of one of those shots that you either hit it and you're going to get down there by a good amount, or if you clip early, which, spoiler alert, I just did, I'm not going to go very far. But yeah, there's really no other shot.
You really had a difficult position right there. I mean, with that small of a gap, there's really no percentage that you're going to hit that most of the time. So
yeah, and this is one of those I throw A3 right here, kind of turn it just a little bit too early. Once again, hit another tree, so I'm not looking really good sitting in the middle of the fairway. Eagle, as you can see, even though he hit a tree, he's about 220 feet. Do you think? Maybe less, maybe more?
I'd say probably that's about accurate. I was doing a standstill forehand approach and just really didn't get the proper angle on it out of my hand.
Do you always put your right foot first and behind the mini?
It depends. On a shorter forehand approach, it takes my lower body out of the shot, so I'm able just to kind of go more point and shoot.
Point and short?
Point and short.
I threw the same disc. I just hit the tree, so I threw A3 right there. This is a perfect drive. Just a little baby flick upshot to the basket. Almost gets it in the bullseye.
I'm trying to line up this putt and maybe give it a little bit of a run. I wasn't happy with that second shot, so ended up a little bit left.
Yeah, and here's this Ronald's third shot, just kind of flicking it up there. Once again, this is, even though we're kind of struggling on the hole so far, this is definitely one of the easier par 4s.
It's definitely one that you're hoping to get looking at it.
It's always fun whenever there's a tree dead center of the basket and you're about 15 feet away. Ronald lining up to take a 4. Just had a little bounce out. The couple of the baskets were kind of leaning. You can see a little bit right there, but they changed around the course, I think, slightly. Based on like the normal play from what I understand. So they brought in some better baskets than the normal course, and then changed the course around a little bit too as well. So they brought in some 10 baskets, but that's kind of just what you get for playing with a little bit of 10 baskets sometimes.
All right, hole 4, par 3, 65 meters. This one plays uphill. On the right side of the basket, you have this wooden feature of sorts for wintertime fun. This is probably the shortest and easiest hole in the course, but it could be a disaster as well since it's right on a slope.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those holes that's kind of fun to play. I wish I could see somebody ride a bike down that and then do some flips off the ramp in front of us, but never really saw that happening.
Yeah, that would have been cool. I was kind of hoping for the same thing, but instead we have people throwing forehand shots. It's a distance where you're probably throwing like a Firebirds type disc, just a little bit of flex on it. And Leo actually, he goes underneath that that wooden whatever it is, and I think he should be like well inside the circle. Right here I'm throwing a Glow Gator, just trying to throw it flat just a little bit left of the basket.
Yeah, and if you hit that ramp thing, it would kind of do this weird spin a bunch of times and it would roll straight down the hill. So the last thing that you want to do is come out early because you also are blocked with the putt. I'm going very similar to the Glow Gator. I'm going with a A3. I threw this the last 2 rounds, but the first round I threw H1, and I realized like this is actually kind of a short hole if you just play it directly at the basket. There's a ton of elevation on this hole, as you can tell. Pull it just a little bit, but still that's inside the circle. Just uphill putt.
Yeah, it being so short, like if you place a disc anywhere on that hill visible from the tee pad, you're probably inside the circle. That's one thing that I realized. You don't have to necessarily park it. You can be further down the hill and you're going to have a fairly makeable putt.
Yeah, Ronald hit a tree right there. A little bit of a tough putt going straight uphill. You don't really have a lot of footing right there either. There's a lot of sand throughout the course. I have to putt straight through these trees.
Wow.
But there's still a decent look though. They're a little bit more open than what you can see on the video. But if you don't have a clean release through them, you're going to end up hitting the tree right in front of you. So I thought that I made it the whole time, but going uphill, you always have to putt it a little bit harder. And here's some of that disaster you were talking about.
Oh my gosh.
I actually got lucky at the very bottom because I hit the telephone pole, the light pole.
Yeah, it's never easy when that happens, when you're thinking, oh man, I'm getting a birdie on this hole, and then all of a sudden you're getting a bogey. So
yeah, with the disc halfway to the basket, you're thinking, oh cool, birdie.
Yeah, you just got to put that behind you and stay positive for the next hole.
Yeah, Mikael misses a little short putt right there. Once again, it is going really uphill. As you can see, Leo has a pretty easy putt underneath that. But there's a little bit of wind to play with, so when you're putting uphill with types of putts like that, the wind comes into play a lot more because you're putting so much nose up. So
little tap in 3 for Mikael. He'll look to improve on the next hole.
I'll take the lone bogey. Eagle and Leo taking the birds. Did you like this course?
I did. I thought it was very demanding. By no means it was easy. There was it forced you to think about every shot and commit to it. And it being mostly a wooded course, it wasn't unfair. Every shot was a good amount open, and yeah, overall I thought it was a really, really great course. Yeah,
the ratings weren't, they're not fantastic in Estonia, so looking at the ratings and you're thinking like, oh man, he shot like a 950, 970, but it's a little bit closer. I think they were probably 20 to 30 points off at probably the minimum, but
yeah, definitely. It's something, I'm not sure the reason why, maybe because Estonia started a lot later in disc golf opposed to us, so the ratings are a little bit further behind.
And the players there are good.
The players there are really good. All the Estonians they know how to throw sidearms. It's like crazy.
They're born to rip sidearms.
It's nuts.
Yeah, there's a lot of players going on hole 5 going around the trees. Because you're going so far down on the hole, you can play it really wide and swing it in around these trees and hopefully have a look from about circle's edge. I didn't even see this route until I saw people throwing it in the tournament, but it makes sense, especially going really far downhill. You can get a lot of fade, and as long as you get around I think the one branch right there, then you can get kind of towards the basket.
Yeah, it's pretty open over there. I mean, it's a small gamble. You really want to throw something that's has a little bit more glide, but those trees on the left side kind of force you to throw a turnover forehand off the tee. So it's an interesting shot shape, but it's definitely doable.
Yeah, I'm throwing a PA1 right here. The hole's only like 330 feet or so, so if I connect on a decent putter shot, I'm going to go past the basket. So I threw a little too hard and then got a little bit more glide with some wind fading left, so I'm outside the circle by a little bit. And then Ronald and Mikael are looking at just some really long putts, more or less just layups. Kind of same thing for me too. There's one branch right before the basket that we're all going to be dealing with here in a second. And it's basically like you throw it at the branch, hopefully you kind of squeak through, or you try to putt underneath it. But you can't even really see it right there. But now you can with layer.
So that putt was going in.
Yeah.
But the tree said no.
Yeah. Sometimes it's nice to have some type of like lineup for your putt, because it's like, okay, if I can get it underneath that, I'm gonna make it. I don't know if that's the case for you, but sometimes I don't mind having that kind of thing.
Yeah, fortunately I was a little bit more right, so that tree wasn't in line with the basket. And what you're saying is, it kind of framed it nicely, where I just said, if I throw it flat just a little bit right of that tree, there's a good chance that it should end up in the chains. So definitely playing little tricks with your mind out there.
Outside the circle putt.
Yep.
Yep, Eagle taking the birdie. The rest with pars. There's not a whole lot of danger on that hole.
Hole 6, par 3, 125 meters. This is a perfect example of an Estonian hole. We're talking about Estonians having huge sidearms, and if you got one on this hole, this is the hole you want to throw it on. So just basically power forehand, miss a few trees, and hopefully get inside the circle and give yourself a birdie.
Yeah, this is a good example too of the holes that we had to play throughout the week. They're not super easy. And for me, it was outside my sidearm range. I know you like to throw that kind of power hyzer sidearm. And coming in a little bit later in relation to coming early is kind of the way to go on this hole. You got a little bit of a branch kick, which probably took about 30 feet off your shot. I think you ended up slightly outside the circle. You can see Leo doing the same thing, catches a little bit early. You want to travel down that road for as long as possible and then have a late fade with a little bit of a slip.
Yeah, I think 4 out of 5 players will opt for a forehand on this hole.
Yeah, and for me, it's just slightly outside my comfortable range of throwing sidearm. And then once I get into that range, I always feel a little bit more confident being able to go turnover or hyzer flip. This is actually the type of hole that plays easier if there's a headwind, because you can late flip it a lot easier. I'm throwing a 400G M4 on this hole, just nice and easy slight hyzer, hoping that it fades a little bit. Gets pin high, but didn't really pull over a whole lot. But I have a look at the basket.
Yeah, you want to ride that hyzer to get past the first initial set of trees and then get that late flip to the right. Mikael, probably from about 15 meters or so.
Yeah. Yeah, these are fairly long putts. Kind of either a little bit of a layup. There's not much danger on the putting green. I have a little bit of an awkward stance with the root. Once again, I'm about 15 meters. We're all about the same distance here. I had this putt probably 7 times throughout the last round, it seemed like.
I think I'm probably from about 11 or 12 meters right here.
Yeah, and you can see the wind dropped it. just a little tiny bit, and looked like it was going in, but just hit that top little nub.
Yeah, I remember that putt, and out of my hand, I really liked the way it felt, but yeah, that wind kind of just pushed it down.
I don't think we saw Leo's upshot, but that was actually for par.
I remember he actually threw a Scooby approach, and I thought it was really good.
Yeah.
No one clapped in the gallery, and
yeah, I think he threw it upside down, and everybody was like, "Are you allowed to do that?" And he got up there pretty good and made a good putt for par.
Yeah, good scramble from Leo. Star par. Estonian star par.
Super duper fun on that hole. That's definitely a bonus birdie in relation to the other holes. It's really nice to get if you got the sidearm, but that's about it. We're going on to hole 7, par 5, 204 meters. This is one of those holes that, with a really good tee shot, you can definitely get a look for eagle. There's a Mando halfway up that hill on the left-hand side. Probably be able to see the sign here in a minute, but if your disc fades out, or if you're even in the middle of the lane right there, you're not getting to the basket. You'll be able to get on top of the hill and make it a fairly easy 4, or get a fairly easy birdie, as long as you don't hit early off the tee. But the people looking to get an eagle are going really far right off the tee and fade, and really don't fade out as much as you can.
Yeah, there's actually a lane if you turn it over pretty hard off the pad, get some glide, it opens up the hyzer. So right here, I'm trying to push far right just to have that opportunity to get the eagle.
Yeah, and I think you barely clipped the branch and it faded out, and the gallery's really pumped for it, but I know you wanted to stay to the right.
Yeah, I mean, it's not bad for hitting a tree. I'm in the middle of the fairway.
Leo too, almost the same exact shot, but from there you still want to be more to the right to reach the basket for a chance at eagle.
Yeah, further right or a little bit farther. But I think Leo will have a look to maybe get some sort of look for his eagle.
Yeah, and that's I made that mistake the first round, turning it over a little too early. You got to have a late flip on your drive, and as you can see, Ronald right there goes a little bit early with the sidearm. It's still salvage. You can still get a birdie from there. You can throw one up towards the Mando, and from the Mando to the basket, it's a fairly easy upshot. I'm going 750 GD2 off the tee here. It's a type of disc I like to throw for really long left to right shots. I think we're dealing a little bit headwind too as well. I hit that gap that we were just talking about.
Yeah, that's a really good spot. You'll have some trees to deal with, but I think there's enough gaps that you'll have a look.
Yep, and Mikael right here, he's just trying to get straight out of the gap and fade left. There's not much danger. There is a little bit of a shelf kind of where the gallery's standing, but it's nothing too dangerous to deal with. And you're going Spike Heiser PD2, I'm guessing. Yeah, my understable PD2.
I was trying to maybe make some fireworks happen, but just the angle to get the hyzer that far left, it's almost impossible.
Yeah, you're going really far uphill. There's a lot of, for an Estonian course, there's a lot of elevation on this, which is really fun. I think it's used for some type of training for skiing and something like that.
I imagine some sort of cross-country skiing.
Yeah. This is probably one close to the best shot of the round, but I'm going Spike Heiser. Didn't get the second camera angle there, but ended up about 10 feet from the basket. Went straight up Spike Heiser with my 400G D2. Not a really overstable disc. I wanted it to go up and then glide left. And then when you see we get up to the top shelf here, they're fairly easy up and downs to get the birdie.
You can see the wind's picking up.
Yeah, you can't really hear too much of the wind, but it was ripping right here. It was pretty good.
I felt like
you can see his disc kind of scoots over to the right after it hits the ground.
I felt like all 3 rounds, like this little area, the putting on this green and the next hole, it was always windy since it was a lot higher up than the rest of the course.
Yeah. See Ronald with a really good putt right there. I think that saved his 4. Even from where you're at, I mean, you even had it looks like a pretty easy putt, but there's a lot of wind right there. The flag's not moving too hard.
Yeah, I remember that putt. I definitely had to think about it a little bit more than I wanted to.
These are fairly easy tap-ins. Very fortunate to have a little tap-in eagle right there.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Nothing wrong with taking a 4 though on that hole. Pretty good scores. To go 5 under out of 4 people on that hole is pretty good.
Not bad. Not bad.
This was one of the tougher par 3s because of the wind. The wind was ripping left to right. It's 119 meters, par 3. It goes right down this kind of driveway. The basket's on the left-hand side, but those trees stick out a good amount on the right, and the left to right wind just kind of shoved you into the trees. No matter how hard you tried to go left, you went right.
Yeah, every single time I released it on a hyzer, and it felt like the second it left my hand, it got shoved right. So you had to pay attention to your angle on this hole to make sure you started off a little bit more left than you would even think.
Yeah, and go a little bit high. You know, you want to be a little bit higher and almost spike hyzer out of your hand, and you can see the wind just kind of mess with mine a bunch. I clipped a little tiny branch at first, and then I hit the tree coming in towards the basket, and it leaves me like 50 feet or something like that.
Every round I threw an MD3 on this hole. Looking back, it was probably the wrong idea, just because it didn't really fight the wind as good as a driver might. But this one I actually fight through all the trees, and I'll have an outside look.
Yeah, this was the type of hole where you throw hyzer and it moves to the right.
Yep.
Like you throw spike hyzer out of your hand and it moves to the right the whole time. Like you just don't have. And if you can get a shot like that, like Leo just had, to where it gets through a couple of the little skinny guys, you're going to have a look from probably 40 feet or so. But you can see that spike hyzer out of his hand is still moving to the right, and we didn't really see where that one finished, but I think he's still slightly outside the circle. And then Ronald with one of his, you pretty much are forced to go backhand on this hole. There's not much besides that.
You could do some sort of weird overstable forehand.
Yeah. Yeah, just really long kind of pokes at the basket here. Not much trouble on this hole. Once again, I'm looking 50 feet, jump putt. Pull it just a little bit of a breeze too. You got a fairly wide open look.
Yeah, I'm probably about 13 meters here. There's a little bit of wind. I mean, there's not really that much wind, but there's wind in my mind, and it kind of made me overthink it a little bit. Kind of went a little bit too far past the basket for my comfort.
And Leo too, he's a little bit outside the fairway, but he kind of squeaked through. He's looking at the basket. Really good putt right there. I think he was a little bit outside the circle.
Yeah, 2, 1 inside. Good for his disc golf metric stats.
Working on the metrics. Definitely not an easy comeback putt.
Yeah, I was forced to go straddle on that one, and I don't mind straddling, but it's not the thing I want to do when I have to save par.
Yeah, save the par. Yeah, Ronald and Mikael just picking up their easy pars, getting a little tap-ins, kind of moving on. Once again, this is a good hole to birdie, but it's not a gimme hole. There's not really any gimme birdies out here at all.
Oh no, absolutely not. Every shot is super demanding. Hole 9, par 3, 82 meters. This hole drove me crazy during the week.
Yeah, this is like an awkward par 3.
There's like 3 or 4 different ways that you can go. I know there's a forehand approach. It's like a slight flip up mid-range, which Leo's trying to do right here. I don't know if we'll see the second cam or not. But he just kind of flips it a little bit too much, and he ends up out of bounds.
Yeah.
He did that the round prior as well.
It was really easy to flip it over on the backhand, and I went with the same disc every round and ended up about 30 feet short. Ended up within 5 feet of the same spot every single round. I threw A3 sidearm. I'm just trying to go through that middle gap. There's also that wide gap as well, and you just kind of clip that tree. But this hole was like a somewhat island, but not island at the same time. But where you hit, he's outside the fence, but he's safe. There's a line on the sidewalk. So Ronald looking at pretty standard sidearm for him.
Yeah, in retrospect, I think the line that you and Ronald took is the best play on the hole, unless you're really comfortable throwing a slight flip-up mid-range / putter shot.
I think Mikael here actually hits the walking path and skipped all the way to the basket. I think he might be in the circle a little bit. Leo, taking a note from your book, the round before.
He did exactly the same thing I did.
Ooh, that actually looked like it almost went in. But this basket also sits kind of on top of the hill. It almost has the same drop-off behind it as you're seeing right there in front of it. Mikael's second shot as he skipped off the... I don't think he realized he skipped off the path, but it went pretty far after it hit that.
Yeah, on this hole, unless you're inside the circle, you're going to have a little bit difficulty running it.
Yeah, and this is another hole, too, where the wind comes into play. You're near hole 1 as Leo putts for his bogey. I have a little bit going straddle right there because the tree is right behind me.
Come on.
Got a little bit of a headwind. Just keeps it up just a little bit too long right there.
So this is Ronald's shot.
Ronald with that lone 30.
Yeah. So this will be Leo tapping in for a 5.
Yeah, he threw his mid-range up there, and exact same thing 2 rounds in a row. The wind just pushed it, coming in left to right. Really easy to reach that sidewalk. We didn't see the catch cam, but if you turn your disc over, it just immediately finds the out of bounds. There's no room for it to really stop.
And Mikael tapping in for his 3.
I'm also taking the 3.
All right, guys. Well, this was the front 9 of the 2018 Pärnu Open. Bird Shoes commentary. We'll see you on the back 9. So stay tuned.